attorney's office. And the DA's office is where you're a prosecutor, people who actually bring criminal charges for the state of Texas. And so I represented the state, meaning putting people who needed to be prosecuted or in jail, people who need to be in prison, juveniles that needed to be detained, and I did that for 5 years. Also during that time, I was married and had 2 children. I have 2 sons. One is 23 and the other one is 18. So I think I know about young people a little bit, besides the fact that I represent a lot of young people as well. And also during this time, I said I would take a career change after 5 years in the DA's office and opened up my own practice in Richmond in 1996, a long time ago, and started my defense firm, which I've been doing that for the last 18 years. So as a criminal defense attorney, I represent people who are accused of crimes and juveniles who are also charged with crimes, and I also practice other areas of law as well. In representing people, I have handled all types of cases, from capital murder cases, and I've sat as a municipal judge, which is traffic court as well. So all in all, I've been doing all this law stuff for 24 years, and I really enjoy it. The law firm, T.B. Watson Law, started in January of this year, and I guess now is probably a good time to introduce attorney Sohail Ali, Hassan Ali. He's going to be presenting as well, and then we're going to get right into Know Your Rights. And what we want to do is make sure you guys know when you're turning 18, or even 17 for that matter, there are some things that's going to happen that are good, and there are some consequences to turning that age as well. So I'm going to introduce, let Ali speak to you guys, and then I do want to just hear y'all's names just so I can hear something from you so I know you're aware. Okay, Ali.
Hello. My name is Ali Hassan Ali. If you have trouble remembering that, just remember either Prince Ali from Aladdin or Muhammad Ali. It usually doesn't. I am 26 years old. I have been licensed for 1 year now. I went to Stephen F. Austin High School in Fort Bend ISD. I was in marching band, trivia club, decathlon. I took 11 APs. So whatever you guys are kind of going through, I still get nightmares about that stuff, believe it or not. After that, I graduated. I went to Case Western Reserve University, which is in Cleveland, Ohio, back when LeBron was originally there. There I got my undergrad degree in political science and chemistry, and then I took a year off, came back here. How many of you are in Test Masters or know what Test Masters is? Yay! We got one guy. I actually taught at Test Masters for a year, so I was a tutor there for a year before I went to law school back at Case Western Reserve where I got my degree. And now I've been here back in the Houston area for a little over a year now. Funny story, how did I meet Miss Watson is, what she didn't tell you is she ran for district judge. Who actually knows what district judge means? Let's just say if you commit a murder tomorrow, you're going to go before the district judge. Okay? So it's the highest judge on the state court level. Okay? Why is that important? Because when we're talking about the criminal justice system and everything else, we kind of want you to ask any questions about the system, the politics behind it, and everything. So I was an intern with her campaign. My first trial was actually when she was defending somebody for a murder trial. I specialize more in the business, management, public law, administrative law, small business kind of thing cases that might come up. And so I'm probably going to be talking to you more about the civil side of what happens, the legal consequences. And also I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what happens in the school system. When you're in school, can you really get in trouble for that? The answer is probably yeah, you can probably get in trouble with that. And I'm going to talk to you about social media and how social media is starting to be really used against you and your generation in terms of getting caught and providing evidence. Okay? So without that, let's go around the room. I know some of your names, just so we can hear them. And I'm going to do an old law school trick, which is when I'm speaking, if you're not looking at me, probably I'm going to talk and pick on you. I learned that in Testmasters as well, so you have forewarning. Go ahead, what's your name? Aaron Gray? Brandon. Chase? Okay. Alex Gray. Start at the back.
Matthew Green.
Matthew.
Jordan Nichols.
Jordan.
Mason Mays.
What's your name?
Mason Mays.
Mason? Okay, Mason.
Charity Rose.
Charity. Taylor.
Madison.
Madison.
Taylor.
Taylor. Noah. Megan.
Genesis.
Genesis.
And
Cameron.
Cameron. All right, great. All right. So, very good. Everybody knows each other's name, and we can all kind of relax and just try to get through knowing your rights. So, ages in here range from, who's the youngest? Probably 12, 13? And how old are you? 13. And probably who's one of the older kids? 16, 17. What is it? 15. And who else we got? Yes, sir? Mason?
16.
16. All right. And who else we got? Jordan? You're,
Oh.
how old are you?
Oh, 15.
15. Okay. So when we get to criminal law, y'all gonna really wake up if you're not awake, because you're getting real close to a real crucial age. But your packet wants to let you know what's gonna happen when you get to 18 and your rights and your responsibilities. And Ali, you can chime in at any time. So when you turn 18, you are, for pretty much all purposes in America, except drinking. The drinking age is 21. The drinking age is 21. But for all other purposes, you're an adult, pretty much. And you can go, and even without your parents' consent, you can get married. You can purchase a car. You can own a credit card. You want to talk about the pitfalls of that? You can, your medical records as a patient are yours confidentially. You don't have to let anybody know when you go to the doctor, and if you go to the doctor, you don't have to give consent for your parents to read them. Your medical records are your private medical records.
Same thing with school records. So when you're in college and you turn 18, your parents don't need to see your progress reports, your report cards, anything. They'll ask, don't get me wrong, they'll still ask, but you don't have to show them if you don't want to.
And that's a pain for the parent who's paying the tuition, let me tell you. But it is true. You know, they are your records, and so, you know, for parents, and I don't have a lot in here, you know, you just gotta, you know, say, hey, I'm not writing that check unless you put me on there. But they are your records. He's absolutely right. You can vote, and I don't know what to say enough about the importance of when you turn 18 and voting. Do they talk about the importance of voting in class, in school? Anything? Tell me, and y'all, let's talk informally. I mean, we're going to get through this, but, you know, as far as you guys go to suburban schools, right? Okay, I'm a product of HISD. So when I grew up in Sunnyside, you know, it was a community where the teacher could be right next door. Just as actually, you know, Dewana's aunt was a street away. And everybody, your pastors, was in the community. And so we had strong Black History Month programs and strong participation in the community and voting. Now, we all have moved in the suburbs. We live in Missouri City, okay, so I'm talking to myself. And it seems like we have gotten away from some of the things that we talked about when I was a kid. So in schools, what all do they do for Black History Month? What all do you know about, you know, do they talk about the civil rights movement at all? You shaking not at all?
Talk about that much.
No, like during Black History Month, they say a quote from a famous African American announcements of today.
Like 365 black where you just get one quote in the morning for the announcement, and that's
Yeah,
basically,
that's pretty, they don't do it.
okay, and so you guys really, unless it's, you know, organizations like this, which I applaud, or something outside from the church, like, who all here knows, you know, okay, I'm gonna say an obvious person, and I'm gonna say somebody else, okay, what Rosa Parks did. Okay, everybody knows, she, you know, okay, she refused to move from her seat in front of the bus, so that started the whole boycott movement. So, anybody connect? So, in the schools, do you know about like the struggles that people went through for you to have the right to vote? Did you get that from school? What's your name, sweetie?
Alex.
Alex, or did you get that from your parents or from church?
From school and my parents.
Okay.
But that, like, we learned that, like, really in elementary school and middle school. Pretty much.
Okay. And did you, anybody knows what a poll tax is? A poll tax? Anybody? Okay. And I'm not trying to trick you or anything. Okay, but that was like one of those really hard ways that they used the system. They used, I know this was supposed to be, and I want to keep calling Dewana Miss Campbell because I've been knowing her so long. Married name is Prater.
Yes.
Right. But anyway, this is a legislative type of legal information session, what we're doing, correct, Ms. Dewana?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to throw the fact that the legislator, these are the people we vote for, okay? These are the people we vote for. They make laws, right? And so during the 60s, they made a law that said if you are African American, in order for you to vote, you had to pay some extra money. Or you had to read like these treatises. You had to go through extra hoops. And so a poll tax was used to say you had to own land, or we had to treat you differently for your right to vote. Okay. Why that's important is because they're doing some of the same things today to stop you from voting. So you probably say, well, so what? That's why your vote is so important. It's so important, one, people are stopping you because your vote is power. So when you turn 18, you have to use that power. If you don't use that power to vote, they're going to take it away from you, and you won't have the things that you like. You won't have the freedoms that you enjoy. Life won't be the same the way you know it, because you're going to have people making laws that discriminate and treat you differently.
All right, let's ask a few questions. Let's see how let's trace the history of the right to vote. Okay, so when was our country? When was the Declaration of Independence?
1776.
1776. Great. Okay. When was the Articles of the Constitution actually adopted?
1787.
All right, 1787 something, yeah, close up. All right. Now, on that date, 1787, 1789, who was eligible to vote in this country? Give me characteristics.
White male.
Male.
Landowner.
Property, landowner. What was the age?
20-something.
21. Okay? So let's go through those four characteristics again, right? White, male, 21, landowner. Okay? Those are different characteristics. We don't have that same objective today, right?
No.
All of those have changed. All of those characteristics change, though, at different times. Okay? So what do you think of those four barriers? Which was the first to go down first? Landowners. That's actually right. Okay? Eventually they brought it down and you didn't have to own land anymore. How did they overcome that? By the institution of poll taxes. Okay? So you no longer were allowed to need land, but guess what? They'll throw another barrier in front of it to keep that prevention. Okay? Alright, what's the next one that happened? That got knocked down? Nope.
White.
White. When was that taken down?
The 14th Amendment?
Not 14th, you're close though.
The 15th to 16th.
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 16th Amendment. Who knows what year that was? Come on, you just watched the movie Lincoln.
I'm not here.
When did the Civil War end?
1860. No. It started in 1860.
1865 it ended. 1864 was when the amendment was happened, and once the Confederacy was brought in, they were forced to adopt it as well. So for all extensive purposes, in the South, where we are staying right now, you guys are from Pearland. Pearland was plantations. Sugarland was plantations. That's where we get the names from. Okay? These are all things to be aware of. All right. So 1864, you no longer have to be only white to be eligible to vote. Okay, ladies, that still sounds a little unfair, right? Okay. So next to fall was actually gender. When were women allowed the right to vote?
1860.
Not 18. 18 was prohibition.
19.
19. That's the correct. You know what year that was?
30.
Yeah.
No.
19 something.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's get close.
1930. No, 20 something.
1927. Okay? So let's just backtrack here, right? If you weren't white, it took from the Constitution founding to when where minorities were allowed to vote in this country, approximately 70, 80 years. Right? Then the next big jump we were able to make was to allow women to vote. And that wasn't allowed around the country for how many years? From the Civil War to the Progressive Movement. Another 60, 70 years.
Right.
Make sense? Okay, so we're in the 1930s now. When did the voting age drop from 21 to 18?
The 21st. No. 24th.
27. The Vietnam War. The reason why when you turn 18 you are allowed to vote is because there were a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds who were sent to fight a war in Vietnam and were dying and weren't able to come back and vote and have a voice in what was happening to them. Does that make sense? So that was in the 70s. So the right to vote for when you turn 18 is less than 50 years old. Now, let's throw a number out there. How many people between the ages of 18 and 35, what percentage of the voting population was between the ages of 18 and 35 in this past November election? How many young people do you think voted here in Texas? 12. I want you to think 12% of the voting population, our generation, and I include myself in that because I'm 26, we are all fighting the same issues,
Right.
voted. And you see how long it took for that age group, for someone like you and I, to be able to vote? That's over 100, 200 years.
And that's good. And I want to drive to the fact, I want to drive it back to as well, all the barriers that institutionally took place, because I know this is supposed to be part legislative as well. What we had in the South, and this isn't probably something you've learned in a lot of your books, but besides those big amendments, those constitutions and all that, they had what they call black codes. Did y'all heard what black codes are? Okay, these were secret laws, kind of sort, that were used to make life very hard if you looked a certain way, if you were black. And it was used to keep you in prison longer. It was used to keep you from voting, whether it was as fancy as a poll tax or a reading or something. But the South actually had a lot of things, some of them enforced by sheriffs, enforced by law enforcement, some of them enforced by ordinances, municipalities or cities, to keep you from exercising the right to vote. It wasn't even as big as the Constitution. We have the Constitution and all the great stuff that Ali said, but there were also little things. So every election is important, because if the sheriff was putting people in jail because they were African Americans so they couldn't vote, well, that was still, you're not able to exercise the right to vote. And so that's why it's extremely, extremely important, and we can't comment on that enough.
Now, what do you think who do you think you get to elect? Let's ask that question. There's a lot of people when you're like, why do I care about elections? Who is it out there that I even get to elect? Okay? No, you get to elect the vice president too. All right, let's start at the federal. You get your federal, you got your president, President Obama, vice president, right now Vice President Joe Biden. You get to elect 2 state senators. By the way, that was also an amendment, because originally your legislature picked your senators. So that's new. Okay, then you got your U.S. congressman. Then on the state level, what are the state level offices that you get to vote on? Governor, right?
Mayor.
Mayor.
No, wait,
No,
no.
we're on state level. Okay,
Attorney General.
lieutenant governor,
Attorney General?
attorney general. What other offices? They are state senators. I'll accept that. State representatives.
Congressman.
That's U.S. Congressman. That state representative is your U.S. Congressman. Here's who else. Railroad Commission. The same people who control the oil and gas industry, regulate it. That's an elected position. If you care about climate change, you care about who's on your Railroad Commission. Your State Board of Education. The people who are writing the textbooks that you study, that doesn't include a lot of black history, doesn't include a lot of minority history, doesn't want to include the separation of church and state. All those little edits that change history, we elect those people who get to approve that. Okay? Aside from that, judges. From the Supreme Court judge, your Court of Appeals, the highest criminal court in the state, those are all elected officials. And guess how many minorities across the board, are on that level?
1.
0. We have 0 minority judges in the Supreme Court or the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals.
In
And
the
guess,
state of Texas.
in the state of Texas. And guess how many kids or minorities go through the system? We're the overwhelming majority.
Justice, just us. Okay, many times, the overwhelming majority.
Then on the county level, the sheriff, the guy who's in charge of pulling you over and writing your tickets, by the way, that guy's elected. The guy who's running the county, they're elected. Your mayor, your city councilman, all elected. In fact, you guys go to Pearland ISD, correct? Okay? Your board of trustees for Pearland ISD is elected.
Alright. So, we'll get through to know your rights, but we just really want you to understand the importance of voting in every election, because it's gonna affect your ability to do, you may not think it, but even the small things, the small freedoms that you enjoy, and knowing the history of the struggle of why people work so hard to get that, I hope will make it more important to you that you have to do this. Okay,
So just to kind of go over, when you're an adult at the age of 18, anything you think you should be allowed to do, more or less likely you can. You can enter into contracts, you're fully liable for those contracts. You can make a will. You can say that, you know what, you can make any healthcare decision about yourself without needing your parent. You want to call yourself an organ donor? Call yourself an organ donor. Okay? You can also join the military without parental approval. All right, so let's go to the next place. So what are your consequences then? What's that Spider-Man saying, with great power comes great responsibility? Well, the responsibility part is you're going to be held to what you agree to, okay? So people can sue you. They can come after you. You can go to jail. You are legally responsible for your own actions. You can be, there's no get out of jail free card or anything like that when you enter into agreement or make a decision as an 18-year-old. So that's really, really important that you understand. Just don't sign your name to things. All you guys, when you're going and doing those terms and use of agreement and whatever, you're giving your social security, you're doing, all that will come back to haunt you. You can't sign up for credit cards. That will come back to haunt you. So be very careful with your private information now. Okay. Another pro tip when coming to all of this, okay, how many of you have a professional email address? Or is it something like hottitoddy97 at Yahoo? Get a professional email now. Keep it to the side. Don't make it a school email. You want that email to be professional, so when you go for internships, when you write your resume, it's something respectable that people are going to be able to use. Okay? Do that now. Get in the habit of presenting yourself as young adults. Okay, if you do it now, you're gonna be a step ahead of all your peers. Because usually people don't understand it until they're trying to get their first job. Okay. Marriage and divorce. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Don't knock up anyone. You don't get knocked up. And it's actually really important because what you need to understand is teen pregnancy and when you get caught up in child support system, that is a lifetime almost responsibility. And the government takes that super seriously. They will take away your wages. They will come into it. You don't have, I mean, it can be you'll be caught up in the court system automatically, okay? So, well, remember, make responsible decisions. Don't always think about what's in it in the moment. Think about it down the line. So if you have any questions about that, you can talk about that. Let's see. You got questions? Someone over there. Okay, let's talk about credit cards a little bit. When you buy a credit card, okay, as an 18-year-old especially, you are agreeing to whatever term. That is debt. Debt that sticks with you, okay? They can come after you. You can get your wages garnished, you can get taken to court, all that other stuff, you can fall behind. And I promise you, credit cards are so easy to fall behind. Because right now, none of you probably have any real idea about the value of a dollar. I didn't. Okay, I didn't learn about the value of a dollar really until I was living by myself and I suddenly had to pay a bill every month for like 20 different things, including credit cards. So develop a sense of financial awareness now. You know, ask your parents, hey, can you teach me how to make a budget? Can you teach me how to do this? Those kinds of life skills, if you learn now, is going to help you down the line, and especially when you do get your summer jobs, your summer internships, you're going to college, you're going to be much better able to take care of yourself with it.
Who has a checking account now by any chance? Okay, very good. And you know how to write checks? Okay, and what about a savings account? We do this before.
Oh, good.
Great, very good. And you know, it's a good way to see balances. It's a good way to live on a budget. And last, anybody here kind of look at and see how the stock market works and kind of intrigued by it? Okay, it's never too early. You don't have to have a lot of money to start looking to see, you know what, this thing that keeps talking about on the news goes up and down, and it seems kind of interesting, and stocks and people making money, and maybe shares are $20, $30. I got 200 from Grandma for Christmas. Maybe I'll get 10 shares of something just to see what happens, how it grows. The best way to learn is when you have your skin in the game, when you have your money in it. You'll start paying attention to that stock market, and you're going to also start paying attention to that company. And so you're going to start seeing if you like Procter & Gamble, toothpaste people, Heinz, ketchup, and they also see that they also have Go Iron, and they have other things. PepsiCo, awesome stock. They own Taco Bell. They're also in Kentucky Fried Chicken, and just on and on. Think about it. Look at some corporations, some things you like and other kids like. That's just the beginning. You're also going to learn how the corporation functions. But I encourage you, you can do that now with a little money, and even while you're in college, seeing what happens to it. Okay? So, good points. I think we're on page 5, and that's what we were supposed to get some pens from the office, regular pens. And what I'll do, anybody got pens to write with? Girls, you got purses, so get a couple out.
I got one.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention. That's one. And let some other folks come in, because we're getting ready to get some nitty-gritty stuff now. Miss Dewana?
You got one more here?
All right. Mr. Phillip, come on in. How are you? Grab your seat. Very good, very good. So he's coming in just in time. We're getting ready to get to some real nitty gritty kid stuff that is important. One of the things we talked about when we built this is you guys are living in the age of life after Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. Okay? Two very significant cases. Trayvon was how old? 16? 17 years old, minding his own business, leaving the store with Skittles and tea, Arizona tea, walking his dad's house, and some guy that's a wannabe police officer thinks he's up to something, and he's minding his business, and we know the rest of the story. And you also know the story, recent story, which is still going on because they haven't been charges yet. Mike Brown, young man, we still don't know the whole story, but we know that he was unarmed in his neighborhood and was shot down. How many bullets were in him?
8,
9, you know, like a dog in the middle of the street. And he didn't even have anything to threaten anybody. And we know that there are at least 5 or 6 witnesses that said he had his what? Hands up. Okay? So we talked a little bit about history and all that, but now we in today. This stuff didn't just happen 10 years ago, 5 years. This is today. This is your world. And so we're going to talk about your rights if the unfortunate but real incident happened when you are driving, and some of you may be driving now, if not you will be soon, and you're pulled over by the police. What are my rights? What should I do? Okay. I might as well go into that and then we'll go into the law. And then some of it is in here. So, first and foremost, what can law enforcement require of you driving on the streets of the state of Texas? You have to know the Department of Public Safety, DPS, driving is a privilege, not a right. So there are some laws you have to submit to. If the police officers have their lights on because they think that you've done something, you pull over in a safe place, as immediately well lit as you can. Okay? Immediately well lit, safe place. You are also to stay where you are until further instructed, and they will ask you for your license and your insurance. You don't have to start fiddling for it. They're going to ask you for it, and it's okay. Unfortunately, I think you may know about the young man. Did y'all see that on social media? I think in Florida, he started getting his stuff out, and the police thought he had a gun. He didn't have a gun, and they shot him. Did you see that, Robert?
Yes.
Did y'all kids hear about that one?
Yes.
Not to be paranoid, but that's what it means. Officers, I need you, then you get it. Don't get out. And you know what? It's really nothing to get upset about. I've gotten tickets. I've been a municipal judge. I'm a lawyer. They're out there. They're trying to do their job. Nothing to get mad. Officers have a problem. I saw you run a stop sign. I saw you speeding. Whatever. You don't have to say anything. Let me tell you, whatever you say, he will write on the back of the ticket so that later when the prosecutor and the people, if you go to court and you try to fight it, he'll remember what you said. So if you say something like, man, I didn't realize I was going 90. I thought I was going 80. And the speed limit is 60. You still just admitted to speeding. Or if you're rude, like, man, kiss my butt, or whatever, he's going to write that on the back of the ticket. If, on the other hand, you're cooperative and you said, I didn't realize that, or I don't think so, or whatever, or nothing, whatever, he's going to write on the back of the ticket. Bottom line, he'll take it, get your information, he's going to go to his car. He's going to run your license for warrants. He's going to run and see who this person is. Now, because you guys live in the age you do, and I will be talking about it more, your information will come up immediately, okay? And so he'll know who you are. He'll know your driving record immediately. That stuff didn't used to come up that quickly. And he'll come back, and if you're clear, he'll issue you a citation. And if you're my age, to be quite honest, which you're not, he'll probably say, here's your court date, sign here for the citation. If you sign, it does not mean you agree to it. You sign, and they give it to you. Now, what I see with young people, my firm, we represent all kinds of folks. We represent African Americans, we represent white young people, we represent Asian young people, we represent Hispanic young people. I'm just going to tell it like it is. And my African American clients, they almost always going to say they smell marijuana. Now, I'm not out there. I don't know if they have or not, but they're going to say it. What does that allow them to do if they say they smelled it? Anybody? Search your phone. Okay? If they say they smell it, they're going to search your car. There's not a whole lot, if that's their justification, you can do about it. Now, if they say, will you give me permission to search your car? What do you have a right to do?
No.
You have a right to say no.
And that right is not only at your car, but that happens at your front door as well. So if the cop comes up to your door, they can't enter unless they say something to the effect that would give them probable cause. Probable cause is just a term that says they got extra reason to make a fuss. And so if they come to your door, they say, you know, hey, are you here? You know, can I come in? See? No, I'm sorry, my parents aren't here. No, you can't come in. Are you sure? I just want to come. No, I'm sorry, I can't. My parents aren't here. You have a right to say no.
Especially
And that's important.
if they don't have a warrant, which is important for your home. Cars, they don't need a warrant because they're mobile, and it's just the law allows for less privacy, expectation of privacy. But your home is your castle, and they definitely need a lot more than just coming in and knocking on the door. Any questions about that? Anybody have any ideas about that scenario? Because we're going to talk about different more. That's just your regular old traffic stop. Yes, ma'am.
So if you say no, then what happens?
Good question. Excellent. Didn't finish that. You definitely have a right to say no. What comes next depends on the police officer. Okay? Many of them, to be honest, they use what the Supreme Court say they use, and they can use trickery and deception. In other words, they can lie. And depending on the police, and it's okay. The case law says it's okay. Can say, well, if you don't let me, I'm going to get the dogs out, and they're going to smell it, and I'm going to be able to anyway. What can you say? Get the dogs. Right? I mean, you have a right to say yes, sir, in a very kind way. So, get the dogs. Call his bluff. Because 80% of the time, unless you're working for the cartel, I shouldn't say it like that, they are not going to be getting no dogs for no joint of marijuana in your car. That's just real talk. Okay? But they trying to intimidate you to saying, all right, and then they got consent.
How many of you ever been in the car when your parents got pulled over for a ticket? Anyone? Okay, all of you, right? Yeah, even when you're in the passenger seat, right? Okay, you feel your heart going like, oh no, cop came, see the lights flashing behind you, you stop. You know nothing's wrong, but you still feel your heart race. Don't do anything stupid just because you feel your heart race. And trust me, when you're in the driver's seat, I just got pulled over less than a month ago, okay? you feel it as well. Calm, steady, understand in that circumstance, you are at a disadvantage, right? Okay? Don't do anything foolish. You know, be observant though, okay? You see the officer's name tag, call him by his last name. Say sir, ma'am, okay? Understand that a cop usually is gonna have a front dash cam. So when the cop pulls up and you see where the front of the car is positioned, you can see if you're on the video or not, okay? Make sure you try and stay in the video. Don't do anything foolish, right? They're very practical ways. You have rights, and then they're just ways of being smart.
Make sure, yeah. I'm just
Okay.
taking pictures of the
So when you have the camera on you,
Yeah, when I'm talking.
all that is going to be really good.
And another thing you said about the name. Yeah, you don't have to be smart alecky about it, but I taught my sons even to always, and whenever someone with a badge comes up to me, and that's because I kind of think I have a photographic memory, I don't know if I do or not, I look at the name, and I take a picture of that name in my mind. And so I know who this officer is. You guys say, I got your badge number. Don't smart it. But know who you just dealt with. Know who that officer is, and just kind of, keep that in the back of my mind. Okay, that was Gonzalez. For whatever reason, you just don't know. Things can come up missing later. Things can happen all kinds of ways, and you needed to know that that first officer on the scene was whoever, because somebody else could get the case later.
Okay, another question. How many of you know your parents' cell phone number? Oh, that's good. That's more than I expected. Okay? Memorize, there should be like 3 or 4 basic numbers you have memorized for when your cell phone is dead, or in case something happens to you and you get arrested and your cell phone's taken away from you. You know how to contact somebody that you trust and will be there for you. And I know I face this problem because cell phones became a big thing when I was in high school, and I really I have a lot of trouble memorizing phone numbers. So you should make it a habit as much as often as you can to memorize those few numbers that are important.
Okay. So let's go to the worksheets. Make sure you're awake, because we're going to talk about what's on here, criminal law, the difference between a misdemeanor and a felony. All right. It says a felony is a crime punishable by death or imprisonment in a state penitentiary, usually for more than 1 year. That is correct. And your felony crimes are your murders, robberies, rapes, your very serious crimes, your very expensive thefts, your very serious offenses. Misdemeanors. Misdemeanors, all non-felony crimes are misdemeanors unless the law says otherwise. A misdemeanor is punishable by a fine not exceeding, okay, this is where you're going to insert here. The actual maximum fine for a misdemeanor is $4,000. So you need to kind of put, $4,000. It's $500 for a Class C misdemeanor. And a Class C is like a traffic ticket or something like that. So, and then by county jail of not more than 1 year or both. So $4,000 is the maximum you can get for a misdemeanor. What's a misdemeanor? Possession of marijuana. Okay, less than 2 ounces is a Class B misdemeanor. 2 ounces to 4 ounces is a Class A misdemeanor. A Class B misdemeanor is punishable up to 30 days in jail, 180 days in jail, and a $2,000 fine. And a Class A misdemeanor is punishable up to a year in jail. And that's the law now for possession of marijuana. Also, for driving while intoxicated, that's a Class B misdemeanor. You can get up to 180 days in jail and a $2,000 fine. Okay?
Other misdemeanors, theft, shoplifting,
Sure.
Assault. You and your friend get in a little scuffle at school, the police refer you. That's also, that's going to be a misdemeanor. That's another way to get put into the system.
Robert?
So explain how a misdemeanor affects your outlook on getting a job versus a felony. Or, I'm sorry if you already.
That's great. That's the next thing, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
And that's in your packet, and we're going to go through it. Thank you. So a felony conviction can have other consequences besides imprisonment and or fines. Potential employers routinely check criminal records. We're going to go in depth about that. If you have a felony conviction on your record, it can prevent you from obtaining a job. certain industries prevent you from obtaining certain professional license. Even you can lose your right to a professional license with a felony conviction. A felony conviction also places restrictions on civil rights, such as the right to own and possess a firearm, the right to vote, and the right to serve on a jury. All right. We're going to talk about some real serious felonies that I see a lot of good kids, I hate to say this, can get caught up in and how they can get caught up in them. And then we're going to talk about the consequences it can have on their life, job-wise, and future. Okay, in the state of Texas, we have what is called law of parties. You are a party to an offense or a crime if you aid, abet, assist, encourage, you do anything to further the offense. So, hitting a lick. Who here knows what hitting a lick is?
Stealing something.
That's correct. I represent a lot of young people that say they're going to go hit a lick. Well, what happens is they bring a friend. And they may bring another friend. And what happens is those three guys are in the car with different levels of what we call culpability or blameworthiness, but all three of them getting ready to get charged. Let me tell you why.
At the same level.
At the same level. Let me tell you why. So the one who said, hey, I'm going to get my buddy's gun, and I'm getting ready to go and hit a lick and take something. Why don't you come with me? I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to put anybody in here. Johnny. And just watch. And make sure nobody come up. And then he says, well, I'm not going to say anybody's name here. Joseph. There's a Joseph in here. You drive. Because I'm going to be the one that go out with the gun and get the police. Anybody who aids, abets, solicits, encourages, do anything to further the commission of the offense is charged with aggravated robbery. And that's what it is. You had a gun and you took something from somebody. Just like the bad guy who it was his idea and he took the gun. So now John and Joseph are charged with a felony, first degree felony offense of aggravated robbery in 5 minutes from getting in the car with Brad. I'm going to call him bad guy Brad. In 5 minutes, their life has changed because one drove and the other agreed to look.
Oh, and by the way, that also occurs before and after. So let's say Brad, John, Joseph, they leave the lick, they got, $500 in their pocket. They come up to Tina and go up to Tina's house like, hey, can we just hang out here for half an hour, Well, what happened? You see, they got a gun, they got some money or whatever. You have an idea what happened. If you say yeah, you can go ahead because you don't want to say no. By the way, you're an accomplice now.
After the fact, if you gave them shelter,
Yeah, if you get
in other words, they're like, can we just hang out and hide out here? Then you, knowing that they did this, you've given them shelter away from the police. You have accomplished after the fact, you have accomplished during, and it can happen in 5 minutes.
Can you hold on to this bag for me, and then they run away? You're an accomplice.
Okay, we have 5 minutes. So, that's how quickly, and that's a first degree felony, 5 to 99 years of life, punishable maximum $10,000 fine. Any questions on the law of parties and how easy it is to get caught up? Now, you got arrested for it. And you're like, no, my mom ain't never going to hire Tina Watson, and Tina Watson's going to get the real story out. She's going to get me out of this, because that's what she does, and she's good at it. Well, possibly. I've done it, and I've done it well. But you have an arrest record right now, whether you get out of it or not, for aggravated robbery. Because you're in the age of the internet, where everything is immediately accessed. And so even if you get Tina Watson, who's going to get that case dismissed, and I don't know how I'll do it, but I'll get it done, after a period of time, you're going to have to fight to get that aggravated robbery off your record for a period of time, and you have to wait a period before you can even get it done. And more importantly, every job you apply to will see that you got